Welcome everyone to another RWD gaming video. Tonight we are going to be playing Landing Kepler 97, a mecha hack one-shot. Mecha hack being the mech version of the David Black Black hack. Kind of, I don't really know. It's more of an arcade style in my mind version of role-playing games. Very simplified, very focused on the intent of the game, and I guess I'll just let the system speak for itself. This will probably be adult in content, so I don't expect anyone of any kind of young age to be watching this, but in the event that you are underage, you have been warned. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to my fantastic set of players here tonight to intro what they got going on themselves and their characters. So I'm going to start with Karen.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen. I have a YouTube channel called Myth and Gears where we do live plays, mostly Genesis, but we're starting to get a few D&D 5e episodes on there. Tonight, I'm going to be playing Midnight Banshee. She's a Quipster brawler, and this is my very first time playing Mecha Hack, so I'm pretty darn excited.
So you're probably already better than all of us in this game. I hear you're quite the aficionado from what I've gathered. Next, we are going to go to Kevin.
Hello all. Great to be on. I'm Kevin. I've had the pleasure of playing with Jeremy, Karen, Chad, and Baron all before. I don't have a channel, but I seriously do recommend checking out the content for all these guys, as they are excellent at what they do and provide some excellent gaming. So yeah, I say go and check them out, and let's land and get this on the road.
Unmarked trajectory towards a unknown planet. Potato. Moving right along to Jeremy.
Where we're going, we won't need roads. Hey everybody, I am Jeremy. I have the YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions, where I do live plays. I have videos where I talk about gaming and crafting videos, things like that. And I'm also 1/3 of the Dudes of Yore podcast that can be found on YouTube as well. I do that with my friends Jeff Doty and Chad Nick. Go check all that stuff out if you like that. Tonight I'm going to be playing Rampart Prime. He is a Commander Titan, kind of a big tanky character. And yeah, I've only played Mecha Hack twice before, I think. One of which I ran. So I'm really excited to kind of get back into it. It's been a little while and see what we get to blow up.
General, that's actually like Mecha Hack blows stuff up should be the slogan there. Matt, click, you can pay me later. Yeah, I have, I believe, been one of the few people that has got to run this game for you. So welcome back. Finally, Chad.
Well, hello. I am Chad Smith, not Nick. If you got here any other way before, oh, I'm not like super zoomed in. I don't know. Anyways, if you got here any other way other than the Absolute Tabletop group on Facebook, then try and find yourself there. That's where you can see some of these other fine people and get into great games just like this. And I will be playing Hunter Echo. He is a Maverick Scout. This is my introductory game to Mecha Hack, so I'm looking forward to that. And also add a chance for Baron to kill us. So here we go.
Don't tempt me with a good time. So, the four of you, in probably the greater part of your lives, your parents' lives, your grandparents' lives, and their forefathers before them, have known life in a sea of stars. A home world to call your own is something of the sci-fi equivalent of a fairy tale. Your species, it finds itself clinging to life on a cluster of ships that resemble a traveling honeycomb of lights that mirror the stars themselves. Every waking moment is filled with the whir of air purifiers and the circulation of ventilation systems. Your peripherals are filled with fluorescent lights that you have grown accustomed to every waking moment, that you are not in utter darkness. Fresh air to you is almost the air you get out of like a bag of chips that kind of wafts up, that's been pressurized and sealed and transported. This is everything. This is, packaged meals, MRIs, etc. This is repurposed water. This is survival in a distant future. No one knows what happens to where humanity came from or where we've been. One thing is for sure, that this cannot go on forever. Resources have been slim. Rationing has been issued, and has been for the last decade with what relief. The situation to everyone on board, whether they know it or not, is proving to manifest itself instinctually as irritability, as anger, as isolation. The four of you, the fire team, you more often than not are tasked with defending the colony from whatever. For the most part, this is just debris. When you're in space, things can be hurtling with no resistance through miles and miles and miles of empty space, gaining momentum or simply maintaining a insane velocity. And this would be catastrophic to the colony, to the hive. So you are dispatched to intercept, destroy, etc. There are the occasional run-ins with the ETs, the extraterrestrials that have also found their home in the stars. Some of them peaceful, others monstrous. Those tend to be few and far between. I think the last recent contact would have probably been within maybe the last century. It's been some time. And it was a peaceful one, mind you. They allowed you to restock and repair, if anything. But it has been brought to the attention of the captain that the scout drones returning back from their probe into the inky black come bearing good news. A massive planet, easily the size of Jupiter, but every bit habitable. The scans come back that there is temperature ranges that would allow for liquid water and the various states of water, rather. You are within the sunflower zone from the nearest star, which is just referred to as nova. This is Kepler 97. And this looks like hope. So we find ourselves in the hive, in the colony. What are the four of you? I suppose, what is the important thing that you are doing right now? What matters to you in a life of repetition? We'll start with you, Kevin.
My pilot, Gerald Hightower, he spends most of his days in the mech hold. He's going over his mech rigorously. it's a complex. He's been told by the medics. He is testing systems in a routine that's extremely obsessive. It starts off with him going through the routine of cleaning his cockpit before testing out head movement, arm movement, the minute movements of the fingers and the toes, even the axles, the pistons that run the systems of his mech. He does this first thing in the morning, and then he goes back to check the cockpit again last thing at night. That is his whole routine.
A admirable one at that. The repetitiveness doesn't stern well for all, though. Karen. Midnight Banshee. What is important to you? What do you value?
During her downtime, when there is not much else going on, you would find Cassie, the pilot of Midnight Banshee, in probably the rec room, around a table, taking whatever counts for valuables in this place, as she would be playing some sort of cards against other crewmates and usually cleaning them out. All for good fun, though. Because in this place of repetition, that is exactly what she'd be doing, is to try and keep sane, would be to spend as much time enjoying life, what there is.
An admirable goal as well. Rampart.
I think Rampart has a pilot that is built almost similarly to the mech itself. Orin is the pilot's name, and I think Orin is probably a mecha of a man. He's just this very broad, maybe a little bit slow on the uptake. And we just see like this montage of him, like, doing chin-ups and running, like full force on a treadmill, and he's just like drenched in sweat. He's just making sure that his body is in peak condition for running this mecha.
Finally, Hunter.
The pilot of Hunter Echo would be he's kind of a gangly man, kind of stringy and tall, uncapped a little bit, and he likes to grind up alien flowers and wrap them in leaves and smoke them. And he takes to a liking to a game where he uses his knife to stab in between his fingers, and he goes quicker and quicker and quicker. And sometimes he takes bets against others, and he tries to hone his hand-eye coordination skills, and otherwise abuse his body with substances.
There's a black sheep in us all. It's while you are participating in these activities that you love and hold dear that your quote-unquote beeper goes off. You, for being the fire team, are basically on call always. It's a very stressful job, and obviously it takes a certain caliber of person to do it. So you are mid-workout or gambling or routine when the sound is heard to you. The president of the colony is requesting an audience. The four of you make your way to this room that you've gathered before. It's just referred to as the conference room. It's a room very reminiscent to every other thing in your life. The sterile white rounding kind of chambers, the pod-like chairs, the round corners of the table that can be suppressed into the floor to open up this room for various other purposes for the kids to play or whatever. Sitting across from you at the long stretch of table is the president, a man unremarkable in most cases, his hair brown with strands of gray. He wears glasses, his chin weak but unable to grow a beard. He, for most everyone's opinion of him is he's a fairly straight shooter. He's not prone to radical decisions, or he's very logic based and sound of mind. And he sits across from you, finger steepled. As you walk in, he kind of, gestures for you to take a seat wherever you'd like.
Oren moves and actually sits beside the president. I think this is the kind of person that Oren trusts pretty wholeheartedly. He probably admires this man quite a bit, so he's going to be close at hand.
Oren, my friend.
Sir.
Would you like a drink? You seem.
Just water, sir.
He will kind of make a motion to like a Cylon in the corner, and an aide comes in, in their like standard white jumpsuit with like a gray line down it that would have like the gray line, I guess, would be the insignia of presidential aide, whatever. And they come in with various cups and a jug of water and set them all down in front of you. Please, the rest of you, quickly. There isn't much time.
You might find that Vulcan is probably late. Unfortunately, he was mid-check of one particular system, and he cannot leave the system until he has gone through that routine of that system. Just breaking the routine is difficult for him, and so he does get there eventually, and he kind of apologizes, and he's a bit nervous now because all of a sudden he's late and he's made other people late, and he's like, oh god, but I couldn't get past the system. I had to do the system, but I'm late, and so I've kept these other people late, and so he's coming, he's a bit nervous, and he's like,
Vulcan,
oh, I'm sorry.
Please, no worries. Jennifer here had told me you were running diagnostics down in the bay. We assumed from previous experience. It's fine. Please, come in.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I need to sit down.
Hunter, Midnight. I hope I'm not interrupting. The man who has asked you all to sit, he promptly stands and walks over to a porthole. This is kind of on the edge of one of these space colonies that rotates through space that you are all aboard. And it's conveniently kind of passing in front of this ball of color, greens, blues, whites, of this massive planet that is kind of coming into the view of the window. Probe Kepler 97 has reported back with environmental stasis of this planet. We are within the 97 percentile range of a habitable world, the oxygen being a little bit denser than what we were used to, but nonetheless, I believe this could be. And he looks out the window. This could be humanity's next step into the great sea of the black expanse. he returns to the table, hands pressed firmly as he rests his arms against them. Fire team, you will be dispatched to clear a landing zone for the first squadron to set up a base camp here on what would be considered Nova 6. You'll be dispatched immediately.
Do we have any scans of the surface, sir? Do we know if we're expecting resistance of any kind?
There's probably like some sort of, clicking pointer device in his hand, and he kind of points to the wall, which would project a hologram of the probe kind of recordings that Kepler 97 had managed to make back with. It shows huge trees that expand easily, the size of like a diameter of upwards of like 200 feet across. These gigantic rivers of what would be identified as clean drinking water. There doesn't be signs of radiation in the toxic levels. There are large, appearing to be docile, potentially even domesticatable creatures that would yield high meat and food and various other necessities to life. They report back that just on the surface alone, there are deposits of coal and iron and steel. Well, I guess there wouldn't be steel. Steel's not natural. That was dumb. There were deposits of ores visible from the probes pass by. While you're watching the video, you notice a moment where Kepler 97's audio kind of screeches out as something kind of shakes the whole thing, kind of statics it out, and you see that it had dropped in the word escapes me, dropped in altitude quite a ways before coming back online and saving itself. I'm not quite sure what that was. Technicians are still working on it. System malfunction of some kind. We were just happy it went back online. And he's kind of like pointing things out to you, and Kepler's kind of area of scouting had revealed this location that looked, deemable as ideal for landing or setting up some sort of base camp or touchdown point, if anything. And he's kind of pointing out things that he would like done. And he turns back to you. Any questions?
Some malfunction? Do you think something could have attacked it?
It doesn't appear as if it was damaged in any way on the exterior, at least. Like I said, technicians are working on it as we speak. It's, for all we can tell, some sort of bug, maybe. There are a few of our probes that did not return, Kepler 97 being the only one. Not all 96 of the other ones would have went there, but...
What is the approximate mission time that we should expect, sir?
Well, between here and there is roughly a 24-hour journey via Mech. Then landing time, clearing the site, sending word back. I expect you'll be on surface for the next 2 days, just the fire team. Probably by the end of the week, we should have a landing pad of some sort to bring in reinforcements and begin preparations for human cultivation.
Yes, sir.
Sir, has there been any other signs of other life forms down there? Structures, civilizations?
And he kind of is like walking back and forth, arms behind him. From what we can tell, this planet is in a pre-Stone Age, like prehistoric. There are no worked stone constructs of any kind. There are only what appear to be natural land formations, and what fauna and megafauna we have seen seems to be very well below average intelligence. For the most part, this looks like an untapped mine. And I'll be damned to let humanity die while such a resourceful planet stares us in the face.
Have we caught sight of any predatory creatures?
A few, specifically around not Nova 6, specifically around Kepler 97, it seemed that this was the least populated with creatures of that kind. There are large birds of prey that seem to roam towards the oceans and cliffside areas. The more forested areas farther inland don't seem to have these kind of predators. You notice that there's very large oceans on this planet, and it's safe to assume that a lot of the more deadly creatures reside below water. The few more lupine or lithe hunter types predators. This also doesn't seem to have enough megafauna large enough to sustain them. They also tend to be towards like the more open areas where larger grazing things can be. Certainly something that would be tackleable in the future, but for humanity's sake right now, we've basically chose a grassy hill in the middle of a lightly dense forest several miles inland.
So, are we to collect samples or of the sort for our scientists?
Well, I wasn't going to make it your main directive, but it certainly wouldn't hurt. You will be dispatched with a standard supply unit to aid you in any way you can for the next 48 hours. And this supply unit would be like a drone-esque companion to your fire team, carrying supplies of testing materials or whatnot.
You hear the door open and close as Hunter leaves to prepare for the mission.
And a few words, that Hunter, but nonetheless effective. Kind of knowing the shady dealings that he finds himself doing, but you're on the fire team, you keep us safe. What am I to do? Is there any questions? Or can I assume that this is good as done?
Yes, sir. We'll do what we can. We'll get it done.
And I have no doubt, Prime. Now, please. I believe we both have things to attend to. He nods, shakes your hand if you offer it, and returns to the door across the room from where you came.
Vulcan probably wouldn't acknowledge the nod or the wave of the hand. He's too buried in the glancer that he's walking around with now, with all the details of the planet, trying to study it as best as possible.
You are free to make any preparations, but I have the inclination that we are generally good to go.
All clear, my end.
I mean, I'd make sure that food and protein or whatever is packed for, the time that we expect to be gone, maybe a little extra, and that's it.
Your kelp jerky is in its bag and ready to go. It's green. The 24 hours en route to the planet are insanely boring. Nothing quite like being stuck in the cockpit of your mech. Not that this is necessarily uncomfortable. It's comfortable to some, uncomfortable to others. Nonetheless, you are in a cramped space for the best part of 24 hours.
Is there like a sleep cycle? Is there a way to like just knock us out like while we travel most of it?
Oh, I'm absolutely positive that there is.
Yeah, that's certainly what Orin would opt out for.
And I'm sure there's probably like an attachment to the this supply drone AI maybe is like, of course, Rampart, engaging AI, and you're like kind of reclined, and it kind of like
I almost picture almost like a nose cone of a rocket, and like there's 4 like indentions, like on either side of it, and like we like fit into it somehow.
Absolutely. If you've seen the first Incredibles, kind of like how like the ball fits in the center, but there's just like that shape with you guys attached to it. Would the rest of you be doing something similar, or do you have something special you want to do for the travel?
I think I would be doing the same thing, but probably stagger the time awake, such that maybe always one of us is awake at all times.
That's actually a very good point. Perhaps this is something that the system AI does naturally. It puts you all on a cycle of 6 hours of transport time. And if Hunter and Vulcan agree.
Yeah.
You are all... Oh, good.
I was just about to say that Vulcan would be, again, just studying, going over as many details as possible.
You basically have this grassy hill in the immediate calculations of the supplies gatherable, the formations that you could, fortify this location to better. You're already going through those processes and getting those steps put into place, and perhaps this is something that you intend to relay back, obviously. So this is something that like auto links to the AI droid.
Hunter's just drinking a fermented fruit drink.
It's probably also kelp. Everything's kelp. You're all, or whomever's last in the AI order, you are well aware as you enter the atmosphere of the massive Terran planet Nova 6. The trajectory of the ship has you kind of in like an angled drop, so you're not just hurtling down it, a direct angle into whatever is directly below you. So like I imagine there's huge oceans, and you guys are kind of like coasting in around the far orbit of this planet. You see these huge, gigantic waves crashing as there's various moons floating about this as well. You can see deep craters from where asteroids have hit this. Asteroids that would have easily destroyed the Earth, but this have left only a pimple on the face of the planet. You see large groups of migratory birds moving along the coasts as you come in, and from where you are, these look like ants, but just from the height that you're at that these are huge creatures. You even see some sort of tail, massive and formidable, come forth from the surface of the water and lay back in it with a huge splash as some sort of aquatic creature has displaced a massive amount of water. You hit the coast of the land, huge cliffs, dented with nests and streaked with some sort of monster bird shit. You see massive trees abruptly grow from the edge of these cliffs, easily doubling the size of, these already a mile long, vertical cliff followed by huge trees that grow from the tops, their branches filling the sky, or at least the top part of this planet, with green leafy foliage. And as your trajectory lands closer to the hill, I need... actually, I guess I'm going to roll some dice since I don't get to do that very often in this game. I want midnight. It appears as if you are on watch. As you're all probably awake at this point, but you are kind of like in touch with the AI at this point. And I need you to roll a system check.
Okay, so that's a D20 and I'm trying to roll under.
Correct. If you hit it or hit above, you fail.
Okay. Whew, I rolled under. Does it matter how much?
No.
Okay.
If you get a 1.
The four of you hear a noise, a scream. It sounds like a jet plane flying around above you. And it's so loud, it shakes the entire pod and shakes you offline for all of 2 seconds. But midnight, you're able to quickly reroute power back to the main computer and salvage your artificial intelligence before you made an immediate crash landing on the planet.
What the fuck was that?
I don't know. You tell me.
I thought you were the one that was plugged in.
I was plugged in and flying this thing. I wasn't looking out the windows.
Seismic activity detected.
It was seismic activity.
Seismic.
Part.
That's rocks and stuff, isn't it?
That's affirmative, sir.
So why is it screaming like a plane?
Baron, did it sound similar to what we heard on the recording of Kepler 97?
You really didn't hear anything on the recording from Kepler 97. Like the static of whatever caused that to go down kind of hit abruptly before any of like the actual equipment failed. So the audio failed and then your thing went down. So you really didn't hear anything. I would definitely let you take a guess and say that it might have been it.
Maybe that was similar to what the drone Kepler 97 experienced, sir. Maybe it's something in the air that sensors haven't picked up.
Well, even if the sensors don't pick it up, I think we'd better keep an eye out.
On it, sir.
Did anybody else fall down right now?
My God, Hunter, have you only just woke up?
I'm here. I'm here.
Landing in 6, 5, 4, 3. And as it 3 sounds, the wings of this thing, which had kind of like spiraled open as you made your descent using like the reverse pressure to activate its full form and now have elongated into wings, your words escape me. Your wings turn and cause a massive drag of wind resistance, and you feel like the slight jerk as you are drastically dropped in speed. And as this thing kind of corkscrews into the ground, you find the 4 of you vertically upright as the point of this rocket kind of spears into the ground, and the wings kind of descend and lock into place, kind of creating this pod-like structure with the 4 of you all upright, probably about 40 feet off the ground, kind of standing in all cardinal directions. Landing process complete.
Disengaging mag locks, and he kind of pulls a couple of switches, and you just like these massive like clamps that kind of hold this mech in place, fold up and out of the way with like these massive plumes of like air just being released, pressure, and Rampart Prime steps out Rampart Prime is kind of this olive drab colored mech who has like kind of a diagonal stripe kind of across its torso of black that kind of paints the upper left hand side of it completely black. And he has this large, it looks like a shield on his back. And his reactor is humming with power. He has a very large reactor.
Reactor, right. And you can actually see like the auxiliary hookup for your reactor from this drone, which has kind of like blossomed at the top at the detachment of you to reveal like solar panels. The rest of you.
Vulcan would start off by running a complete diagnostic as quick as possible of his mech, being overcautious, making sure all systems are operational before he attempts to do something. He's not a reckless person. He thinks his commander just jumping out without running these diagnostics is reckless. But after finding that everything is fine, he would also detach and immediately start scanning the area for any signs of hostile life, or especially getting scans in the sky for whatever might have just almost dropped them.
So this AI drone is basically like a flower at this point. It's kind of rooted itself into the hill. The tendrils kind of extending further, kind of holding itself and kind of spanning out to, as you would know, create like the foundation of some sort of society to live here. This would form like the power to these exterior locations, and this would supply the water or whatever. This is like pumping. This is a well. It's pumping resources from the hill itself and the aquifers below ground. The flower that has kind of expanded up is photosensitive and absorbing light, but you also see that these like the equivalent of kind of seeds are these kind of small Kepler pods that fan off and start swarming the area. Midnight or Hunter?
Midnight would have disengaged from the restraints pretty much as soon as Rampart Prime did, following his lead. Her mech is fairly utilitarian, and there's nothing fancy about it. It also has this massive humming reactor, not to be outdone by good old Rampart Prime. You know, got to keep up with him. It's definitely got some sort of plating all around on the outside, so it's a little bit more robust, I guess, than the regular mech would be. Also with a big shield strapped to the back. Looks like she's just ready for business. So as she gets down, she pulls out big submachine gun that she's got and levels it and is ready, looking around, seeing if there's any critters.
I think as soon as you landed, a lot of the immediate vicinity was vacated by anything living. There's probably some like smaller sized birds, still large by most standards on Earth, but these things that look fairly kind of just small little birds to your mechs, the sparrows or whatnot, equivalent to these massive monster robots. The kind of more herbivorous, domesticatable creatures, they kind of took off into the trees as the party was coming in for landing. So most of the quote unquote critters are pretty scarce right now.
Hunter was a sand-colored mech for the most part, very very stripped down, even less than the standard suit, to be very lightweight, only carrying light weapons, and he has jump pack jump jets on his back and his hips, and he's got this color paneling on his shoulders and part of his body that kind of give off these particles, and they can surround his body and allow him to cloak. So he kind of just, as he primes on and he turns on, you see that some of the particles kind of come on and then off as he primes up that module, and then his jets kind of prime up and heat up, and then he turns them off real quick, just getting all the systems to go, and then he takes off straight out the way he was facing to get some distance to start scouting.
As you jettison away from the seed, if you will, you skim the tree lines, leaves kind of erupting in a almost like a parting of the sea as you kind of tear through the foliage. You see the trees kind of waving at the propulsion systems that engage your mech. This expanse of tree line and forest kind of, it goes on for quite a distance. And what is your like scouting method for like putting up a barrier?
He probably first just surveys the area, the terrain, and looking for any particular threats, and he probably goes out a certain safe distance and then starts going like clockwise or counterclockwise from that, just creating a 360-degree.
I almost picture maybe like, have you ever seen Reign of Fire with Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey? They have like those spikes that they ride around on motorcycles and stick in the ground. That comes to mind for the sake of this. And you're good, probably 75% of the way done with your round, and a couple of the sensors have been tripped. For the most part, it is these large birds that are kind of vacating the area, passing the light perimeter. A couple of these more rodent-esque mammals as compared to humanoid. They are squirrel-like or rat-like in demeanor, kind of climbing through the trees. But one of these scans is a little bit more alarming. This creature seems to be quadruped, but capable of flight via a membranous kind of attachment between its forelegs and its pelvis. They appear roughly feline in appearance. Very large shoulders, pronounced strength in the forelimbs, a very lithe form, short snout. This would be like, okay, for the sake of comparison, your mechs are human-sized. This would be like bobcat-sized. So if you're outside of your mech, this could fuck you up. But you only see one. And for the record, it's moving away.
Sensors being tripped, sir. A strange beast with membrane wings and feline features. It does appear to be moving away, but it's certainly the sensor barriers seem to be up and working. Hunter's doing a good job laying them out there, but I think we should have eyes up anyway.
That's good. It's better than being blind, that's for sure. Looks like we might have found your predator.
Yeah, just one. I'm not sure if that's the only one around here. This place is too huge.
It certainly doesn't seem safe for us to get out of our cockpits for the time being.
So I had mentioned earlier that the air was a little bit more dense. So I don't know if that was the right wording. It's very similar to like the oxygen content is very high just because of the amount of fauna that are this large producing oxygen. It's not flammable. Like you're not just going to explode because the oxygen here is so dense. It's kind of like neutralized through the moisture in the air. It would be safe to get out of your cockpit to breathe. I just want to mention that environmental factor for clarification.
Vulcan would not risk it yet. He's far too cautious to be cracking open his cockpit. He's still pressurized as best as he can. Commander, orders. What's next?
No, I think staying buttoned up for another time being is the best call at the moment, till we figure out exactly what's the lay of the land here. Well, once Hunter finishes getting the rest of those sensors up, I suppose we need to start making physical room, clearing out some of these trees, moving the logs out of the way, so that they'll be able to start landing and spreading out. We should start here close to the seed, I think.
Copy that.
An excellent segue, Rampart. This is what I would like everyone to do. Explain to me what you're doing to help improve the land for landing, and tell me what kind of check you'd be making out of strength, mobility, system, or presence, and how that is kind of affecting the situation. And a success will give you a boon, and a failure will either, depending on how bad it is, make it worse off for you or better than worse off for you. So if you guys have an idea, or I can roll to see who goes first.
Yeah, I'm good. I think Rampart Prime has found one of the denser like copses of trees that still kind of remains on this hill, and is basically, God, he doesn't have like a melee weapon. So he's probably just using his hands.
To be honest, I have imagined that Seed has some tools. We had kind of
Perfect.
Vaguely said that there is some sort of I mean, you don't have, industrial chainsaws, but you do have, a limited use plasma axe or something equivalent.
Perfect. So he's pulled that from the Seed, and he's over chopping these trees down to try to move them out of the way, like he said. So I'll test power. Here goes nothing. All right, that's an 11 out of 16, so that's a pass.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to elaborate on that. I can, but put as much as you want.
I think he's just trying to do this as quick as possible. He's trying to be efficient because he knows there's a lot of work ahead of him, and he'd rather not be here a week if at all possible.
So for the most part, I see like your position in this is just the cutting of these trees, and it clears a sizable circle, kind of circumventing this hill, and a little bit around it, so you have some advantage of anything should it come after you. And these drones released by the seed, they're imperative to helping you as the trees go to fall. You see like the swarm kind of attach pistons into it and kind of levy it to where it needs to go. You see maybe they like position them around the seed itself and kind of corkscrew it into the ground to create a makeshift palisade around this hill. Cutting pieces into wood that can be used for, buildings or whatever combustion. Nonetheless, anyone else?
Yeah, Vulcan was actually going to tap into the AI and the seed drones as such, to almost give them the directives to do certain things. So rather than allowing the AI to use its own imagination as such, I would be giving it the directives to do these things, trying to get some of them to map the terrain as best as possible, see if there's any weak points in the soil itself, if there are any kind of positions that may be fortified a little bit stronger, maybe a ridge or something that could be used, potential paths that creatures, animals, threats might actually, because it's obviously a threat would use the least path of resistance, basically. And so I'm trying to identify where those main paths to where the seed would be. So he's going to use system to interact with the AI pod to gather as much information as possible. And that is a success.
Absolutely. For the most part that these Kepler pods are very scout in nature, but they are durable and very versatile in like the adaptable function they have in kind of tandem with the seed pods natural kind of effect with these pods. You have some that are, like we said, helping rampart with the trees. There are some mapping the immediate area, testing soil, testing the water. The immediate location, you are on a hill surrounded by, for the most part, woodlands. You know that roughly 3 or 4 miles, or kilometers would probably be more aptly named if we're in space. 3 kilometers to the east, there is a river that is fresh, which will be vital for sustaining a population here. For the most part, your pods are able to traverse these game trails and see that there are like claw marks through the trees that you imagine this predatory feline creature kind of leaps from tree to tree, gliding. There are like the gashes in the bark. You see on the ground the trampled ground of these large, more herd-like animals. You see probably in the scans that one of these more herbivorous creatures is very like elk-like in nature, but maybe has upwards of 8 to 12 legs. You've seen where these things, rather than like a huge rack of horns, they have a different amount of legs. And though probably a pure mammal, they are definitely more insectoid, millipede-esque even. Scans determine that they are quite high in like a meat inside this shell that they are made of. You are able to there's probably one shocking revelation that you found is in the ground. It appears as if there are large track marks of something moving, and even these huge trees, you see like where parts of like the bottom root systems have been severed, and like the severed part has grown into a new tree that's a little bit younger, roughly 10, 15 years old, but something had to have reaved through this thing, leaving huge ruts in the ground where stuff has fallen in. And even maybe a channel a few miles to the west of here where something was dragging itself across the ground, and there's like a huge kind of divot, kind of overcome by foliage. Midnight or Hunter.
I imagine Midnight is actually probably right around where Rampart Prime is. While he's chopping down the big trees, she's got her laser axe and she's quickly like delimbing them and getting them ready for the gathering of the pods are gathering. Meanwhile, trying to dodge all the trees that he's falling. So she tests mobility.
Sounds good.
And that is a success.
Yes, you are 100% able to kind of intermingle yourself with the process of clearing. You're probably a little bit more integral with like the setting of the ramparts. These drones are probably following you as like you prepare them. They take it from there and set them. As the drones helping Rampart are a little bit more precautionary and kind of like to maintain the status of whatever he's cleared. I actually, back to Vulcan, there is something else I wanted you to have picked up. You notice that the ground also to the west where this kind of like sunken in divot is, it's very weak. You know that there must be some sort of underground channel or cave system or something that has kind of like left a pocket of open air beneath the surface, but something, there is some sort of space there that would leave that to be a weak spot to build.
I would relay that information to Hunter to ensure that if he does go that way, he doesn't end up falling through into any mysterious caverns or anything. And so just to be careful and test the ground as he's going along.
That's a good segue to Hunter.
He would be trying to respond to the different sensors that are going off and trying to see if there was some kind of creature, one of these creatures that would be edible for us. So that way we wouldn't have to just eat these meals that are ready to eat, this junk that we've been eating over and over. So he would try to be finding that as well as try to observe maybe a little bit closer to this I don't know, unstable terrain. And I don't know, I could I'll do presence since nobody else seemed to. And that's a 4 out of 9, so it's good to go.
So Hunter, you are like an animal out of its cage, finally able to stretch and explore freely. I don't want to take any, like creative freedom here, but I almost feel like perhaps the allure of drugs and drinking are a little bit less on you lately. The stimuli of being in this area where you can kind of relax, if you will. And you have probably spent the better part of the last day kind of doing just that, hunting and exploring and gathering information and navigating this difficult terrain. As the day winds to an end and the seed has kind of cultivated its location as well as the defensive parameters put in place by Rampart and Midnight and Vulcan scans and Hunter, probably even bringing back something to eat. The four of you are within kind of the seed itself as your reactors charge. And this is kind of the common room. You do have kind of a squad with you of various people that work in the seed, but I want to say there's maybe like five of them. People that are maintenance for the seed, people that would not leaders, if you will. So the four of you are in this kind of common room. The red shirts, yeah, exactly. they're ready to die. So the four of you are in this common room eating area, and which one of you would be the cook? Because you did not get one of those sent with you. Or who is this cook if he is a red shirt?
I think Hunter could cook since he knows how to hunt.
So Hunter, you managed to catch one of these kind of like centipede elk things. You brought it back. It's not like the equivalent of an elk in comparison to your mechs. It's probably like house cat size, maybe. Not house cat size to us, house cat size to your mech. So to a normal person, this would be a feast for days. What is perhaps something you've done with it to entice your companions?
He's probably tried to use some kind of seasoning and has probably overdone it, but he preserved it in a way that, we're just eating probably like one of these legs because it's so massive, and the rest of it is all like chopped up and preserved and waiting for another day. We're probably gonna get sick of eating whatever this is. And he actually even tries to put it away to where they don't see what it looked like, so they don't really know what they're eating. So hopefully they might actually enjoy it.
As you break open the shell, the flesh is very crab-like. It's not fishy, but just in like overall appearance and texture, it's very crab-like, crustacean-esque. So you're able to make some sort of feast for your second night here. How do you guys react?
Do we have to eat this stuff, sir?
He kind of like is turning over the piece he's got.
It can't be any worse than the kelp jerky that we've got. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, fuck it. He kind of pops it in his mouth and starts chewing.
It's delicious.
Actually, that's not bad. Yeah, you should try it. And he actually reaches out. I almost picture like this blooming onion kind of like platter in this middle. He reaches out, like pulls another piece off, and like just starts gorging himself.
Yeah, and seeing that Rampart is enjoying himself, Midnight would start eating it as well.
You likewise find it absolutely delicious. Hunter, among many things, is a veritable good steam cook.
Damn, Hunter. Why have you been hiding these skills?
Look, I didn't even know what I was cooking last time. I've apologized.
Keep it up. This is good.
Amid the banter of dinner, that quote unquote your beepers go off. Usually it's the standard red, but if it's a green, you know that this is a direct line to the president himself. And a faint green blip is kind of going off at each of your waists.
Midnight would look at Rampart. Commander, what does he want?
Oh, hell if I know. I guess we better go. Come on. He kind of scoots himself back away from the table, kind of wipes his hands on this napkin that's all been used up mostly, so it's like this tiny little wad of a thing left. And then like downs his drink and goes to wherever like the call station would be.
Midnight would turn to follow and then turn back and grab one more piece and then follow.
Hunter would just bring the whole thing with him.
Vulcan is still holding the original piece that he was given. Still like trying his best to kind of eat some. He smells it and he kind of sticks his tongue onto it, and he really wants to eat it, but he's just so uncertain about it. And then hearing this, he actually finds an excuse to kind of drop it on his plate and walk away from it. And he'll get like a data download ready to send back.
The call room isn't that far away, as the seat is kind of just this cylindrical place. You arrived at this. It's very similar to this conference room that you were in originally, but much more concise. The table is not long; it's a circle. The screen is on one side. The chair is kind of missing on one side of this. The positioning would kind of suit for 5 chairs, but this 5th chair is missing, giving way to a screen that comes up on the wall. And the comfortable face that you recognize comes on the screen. The wisps of gray, kind of contexting next to the crow's feet, next to stressed and tired eyes. Fire team. Dinner, I see. I'm sorry for interrupting.
We were just finishing up for the day, sir. How can we help you?
Well, to be completely honest, seeing you eating dinner gives me a lot of relief in the overall situation. The seed reports back to us, but I really wanted to talk with you all first before beginning procedural continuation.
How far away is the Keplar?
We'll be there, touching down within the next 36 to 48 hours, I imagine. We haven't told the overall populace of the seed or of the Keplar just yet. We are breaking it to them in waves, preparing those so that we're not swarming out like an angry hive of ants, as compared to a general dispersion as we kind of clear space for ourselves. Tell me, have you found anything interesting?
He kind of looks to the kind of the team scout and the team scientist. Well,
We found some interesting creatures down here for certain, sir. Nothing too threatening. A feline-like flying creature that seemed to be the local predator, although it hasn't caused any issues here at the seed at this moment in time. We've also found tonight's dinner that seemed to be ancient elk-like, but
very tasty, sir.
But with a carapace. It seems to be able to provide plenty of nourishment, food, resource. There's a river close by that has plenty of fresh water, and we are fortifying the hill to as best a standard as possible. There is one maybe troubling sign off to the west where the ground is not so stable. It maybe seems like something has disturbed it, causing rivets through the earth and causing it to be loose. I'm sure we will investigate this in the near future. That's the state that we are in at the moment. We are looking green at the moment, sir.
Excellent. Well, as the Kepler will take at least 36 to 48 hours to reach you, we've dispatched a second seed to populate an area slightly downwind of you, perhaps 30 kilometers to the south. You should be able to see it this evening as it passes overhead. If you have nothing else to report, I will leave you to finish your dinner. Perhaps here in the next couple of days, I'll be able to engorge myself on something other than these MRIs.
Sir, if I ask, who's with the second seed unit, sir?
The backup fire team.
I see. He kind of looks like levels a look at the others at the table.
Midnight would shrug back.
They're more of a reconnaissance mission. It seems that there are some large deposits of mineral ore that would be highly valuable that, despite being 30 kilometers away, seems feasible in recovering. So
we also had some sort of turbulence as we made our approach in the sky. It was very loud, very boisterous, shall we say. It may be important to pass this information on to keep an eye out, ear out, keep sensors up to date as they make their approach.
We'll make note of it. Very well, fire team. We will see you in 2 days. And the screen retracts back to the ceiling.
And Midnight would turn immediately to Rampart. What? They don't trust us? Why would they send a backup fire team?
I don't know. That team, I mean, they're fine folks and all. It's just, well, I just don't know that I'd trust them to secure a second zone. I mean, everything here has been fine, but what if it's not? Where they're landing? Just doesn't sit right with me. That's all.
I mean, neither. Maybe we should keep an eye out when it's supposed to be going over tonight.
I think it's a good idea. Maybe we can touch base with him. And he kind of looks to Vulcan. You think maybe we could set up some kind of communications with them whenever they land?
I was thinking about tracking that approach in case whatever disturbed our approach shows up for them as well. Maybe if it's attracted by whatever's in the atmosphere, we might be able to get some sensors on it, as almost use them as, I don't want to say bait as such, but if the same thing's going to happen, then it might be a good idea, a good opportunity to get some eyes on whatever that was. And then we'll touch base with them as soon as they are in communication range.
No, I think that's a good idea. Maybe we can divert some power from the batteries. They've been doing nothing but charging for the past several days. So maybe we can divert a little bit of power and boost the signals of the scans whenever they're coming in.
I'll use one of my 4 reactors to power that, if needs be.
All right, sounds good.
Finish dinner. Lounge for an hour or so in the evening. The scans that Vulcan had initialized are going off as the incoming seed is going to be going overhead here in the next couple hours. The night goes fairly uneventful. It is when, Vulcan, you are awakened from a relaxing slumber that the flashing red lights of the scans kind of alert you to something's wrong. Seismic activity is off the fucking rails right now. It's not an earthquake here, but something in the water is moving very, very fast, dispersing a lot of water, enough to shake the planet, or at least the area. What do you do?
Oh God. Commander. we think we might have incoming. Something in the water it's moving so much of it that it's setting off all the sensors. It's tripping everything. I think we should mobilize and prepare just in case.
What time is it? Did you say it was moving in the water?
That's what sensors are saying. It's moving so much that it's triggering everything. Everything is going.
Maybe we can turn the sensitivity of the sensors down. You sure that we should wake everybody up?
The measure of what we're reading isn't just a small tsunami. It is something that is triggering this water to move. We're picking up a wave at the head of a bay almost.
All right. I understand. All right, I'll get everybody up. And he starts trying to rouse the rest of the group. He starts pouring himself like whatever the equivalent of a coffee would be.
It's like a cold espresso.
Right. Dehydrated coffee.
It's caffeine and bean juice.
Shot.
Would I be able to get some of the seeds drones to head that way, get closer? I'm not sure if it's within range, but something that we can try and get some eyes on or some better data.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're able to mobilize as well, if that's what you would like to do, is get into your mech.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the command off the commander for that. So
the four of you, tired and uncomfortable to be back in your mech again after a long day. You see the flashing lights of the seed flying in from orbit. That's when you hear it. And there's a flash of radiant light, brighter than the day, that streaks through the sky. And the seed flying in a trajectory that would coast it 30 miles or 30 kilometers away from you explodes as whatever flies through the sky smashes through this with immense energy. Your scanner readings radiation off the charts, uninhabitable by anybody outside of a mech. The seed burns as pieces of debris smash into the ground, these large predatory creatures kind of taking flight and escaping from the fires that are now engulfing the woods. These herd animals of various sizes kind of stampeding, some of them even coming within the palisades, not destroying anything, but enough to cause chaos among the drones. Seed number 2 is down. No contact.
Vulcan, what the hell just happened?
Oh no. I don't know what it was that hit it, but
No, Vulcan, come on. I don't want to hear. I don't know.
I'm trying to get scans on it. I'm trying to get the drones to pick something.
My radiation meter is blowing up over here.
And like those drones that were close enough to it are all burnt up as well. They're fried. Like visuals, our own visuals are what we've got to go on at this moment in time. It was radiant. It had so much kinetic energy, it just tore through the seed and didn't even stop.
As you're speaking, you hear small earthquakes in the sensors. Boof, 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 boof.
That's what hit us when we were coming in. This thing is getting stronger by the hour.
So I believe we need to get eyes on whatever it is as soon as possible. Baron, do we know which direction it's coming in?
Coming from the sea, which would be to the north. I haven't said north yet.
Yeah.
Hunter, you feel like going for a flight?
On it, boss.
Midnight. We need to get this. We need to get this sea shut down and get these people in here kept safe.
Roger.
There's a faint thought in the back of your mind. Those aren't earthquakes. Those are footsteps. And with that, we will take our break. I'd like to thank you guys for humoring me with as much ad lib as I was going for. Usually with games, I like to kind of have a little bit of setting brought forth, but outside this kind of, there's a monstrous planet, and there's big things on it. I haven't really come up with anything for this, outside the encounters, of course, which we'll get to shortly. So, like I said, thank you for humoring me with those requests. Take a break, kiss your spouses, refresh your beverages, use the restroom, do what you got to do. We will meet back here in roughly 10 minutes. I'm gonna fucking murder every one of you.
Believe it. The calm before the storm.
Indeed. Baron, your descriptive work so far has been brilliant.
You were muted through that entire thing, Baron.
That was just me describing my creative techniques. Probably best that I don't share those with the world.
Trade secrets.
Yeah.
Trade secrets, yeah.
I feel that I feel fully immersed in the world and fully
Hell yeah.
aware of the situation we're currently in.
Kevin, you're certainly a player that I enjoy having just for the attention to detail you put forth. So I'm glad you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Thank you.
Speaking of picking up what's being put down, my nephew is staying the night, and he and my son are in my son's room farting and giggling.
To be young again.
I'm pretty sure that was the same thing that a friend and I did last week.
That's what I said. Doesn't get much better than that.
We just talk about different stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that the Mecha hack seems to really lend towards is this like real tactical, strategic, like each mecha has got a role to play in a party, and to try and utilize the skills. Obviously, everyone can have the same mobility sort of thing, but even then, it's still nice to play a theme to each role in a squad. So like it's great getting Chad's mech to go out and actually hunt and scout out physically, because that's what his mech is designed to do, sort of thing.
I agree. The Black Hack system itself kind of lends its overall path to that kind of motion. Mecha Hack being probably the version I played the most. Just the simple combination of pilot to chassis, the kind of, like you said, theme that they present in combination with whatever else you're playing kind of just lends itself to the RP. It's almost like those built-in, like, oh, I'm a quipster and I'm a maverick, so that means I'm probably a hot shot. I've got the good thing to say. Whereas if you're the quipster engineer, it's like I'm smart in the things that I say. It's very, as mechanically bare as it is, it lends itself. Mechanically bare systems kind of lend themselves to the RP, and it's like, explain how A plus B equals C to you, and I like that.
Yeah, it's plenty of fun indeed.
I just fucking like giant robots. Fuck.
Oh yeah.
So we are all back. If you guys are ready to carry on, see if I can rebuild the hype. So the night sky, reminiscent of the image you see outside the porthole every night for the better part of your entire life, is still there. It's still above you. The conditions in which you're seeing it are just changed. Instead of the small porthole that you gaze at the expanse of the universe, it is now the cockpit of a mech. As you look up and the bright light flashes and destroys seed number 2. The flaming wreckage further illuminating as meteors of debris crash into the ground. I need everyone to make a mobility check.
At a 1.
Success.
I succeeded.
I failed with a 19 over 40, or 19 over 14 rather.
19 over 4.
19 over 40, and I failed.
So these pieces of debris are falling erratically, and for the most part, they are out of range of checkpoint alpha, if you will. All but one piece. The stray piece kind of detaches wildly from a larger chunk of the seed, and it spirals rapidly towards your camp. Hunter, this piece is hurtling directly towards you, and instinctually your hand works the levers and switches to engage your thrusters as you evade wildly but daftly as you avoid this piece of huge hurtling steel shrapnel. Rampart, on the other hand, is not so lucky. Where you dodge, the piece of debris hurtles much quicker than Rampart is able to react to. And though you escape certain death, it's not without damage to your mech. I think I rolled damage on this. You take 6 points of damage, which I believe, for the sake of everyone playing Mecha Hack for somewhat of a new-ish time, you have armor, which can reduce the damage.
Yeah, and how long does it take to get armor points back online?
After a rest.
Yeah, it's after a rest.
Okay. We're not going to have time for that. Okay.
Maybe.
I'm going to let the armor soak up one of it, and then the others I'll just I'll take to the hit points.
This armor absorption, is this a like sort of force field, or is this like Rampart just being a beefy ass unit?
Yeah, I think it's more just the sheer build of Rampart Prime. This thing collides before Orin actually has the opportunity to throw up his usual defenses. His kinetic absorbers, his energy shields, none of that. He's fast enough to get working in time, so it's just a brunt assault.
And it's a hard hit. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, Vulcan immediately reacting to this has got a shield which is segmented, almost like scale mail, and he starts ripping off, using his mech to take off bits of these scales off his shield, and starts immediately starting to weld up the major patches in the commander's chassis hull. So I'm not repairing armor, but I'm patching up his basically his HP, and I'm going to use my pilot ability, which is the quick fix. So I burn one of my armor points to add 2 HP to yourself. So I'm going to do that.
Okay. That's sick. I almost
can I just ask how many times would I be able to do that?
I think it's until your armor is depleted. It's kind of like an exchange rate. What pilot are you? I'm
the engineer.
Yeah, it's kind of like burn your own H or AP to restore.
Yeah. So I'm going to do that twice. So I'm going to reduce my armor by 2 to restore you 2 HP at this moment in time. And then what I'm going to do, I have.
If you use 2 armor points, it gains him 2 for each armor point, so it'd be a total of 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's only down 1 HP. Now I've also got the Nano Shroud, which I regain 1d4 armor points, and I have to roll my reactor. So I'll roll my d4. That's 1. So I gain 1 armor point back. So I'm actually only down 1 at the moment. and I will roll my reactor, which is now a D10, and that is a 9 on the
Hell
dice. So that's a pass. So I don't burn one of my reactors doing so.
Impeccable turn. As these, like, I almost picture them like you said, a scale mail, almost like chain links on your mech that you kind of detach and throw to him, and they kind of themselves affix and repair the damage done to the side of Rampart.
Yeah. So I'd burn my shield first, so it would be off the shield first. But yeah, definitely from other bits, physical bits that are on my body,
Absolutely.
on my chassis.
Absolutely. Outside of that, the night regains its darkness. But the sensors are still detecting large amounts of seismic activity. And Hunter, you have also determined from your personal kind of perimeter that you've put up that things within the forest are moving. I said the darkness remains. Fires are beginning in the woods as well from the pieces of cast off debris from this last seed. Your scout sensors are going wild with red as the various things are going. There's also a beacon of green that disrupts the fields of red. And you're not even allowed to kind of like accept this. It kind of just auto plumes on one of your screens. It's the president. Fire team, what the fuck is going on? We just lost a whole seed, went down.
Yes, sir. I saw it happen. All of us are watching it, and truth be told, we don't know exactly what it was, sir. We think it might be headed this direction, though.
Fire team, you have never failed me before. If there's one time I need you to succeed, it is right now. Figure out what the fuck is going on and tell me when you find out.
Yes, sir. Do our best.
If I may, sir, we believe that it may have been the thing we reported to you previously. It seemed to strike midair. We were deliberately tracking the approach of the second seed so we could try and get some details on it. But unfortunately, whatever it was burnt up the our pods that were trying to track the incident. And so it does seem to be extremely volatile and dangerous at this moment in time.
Vulcan, if you can, I would like a full report sent to our specialists here at the colony as quickly as possible.
Copy that.
To send a message, I need a system check, but you're going to have to add +2 to whatever your roll is.
You want me to do that now?
If you would.
Yeah. That's 11 on the die, and I've got a 14 system, so that would make it 13. So that's just a success, just about.
You notice that the heavy, like, gamma or whatever kind of radiation is in the air following that burst of extremely volatile energy is a huge hindrance in sending messages into this atmosphere towards the colony. But you expertly route the kind of precautionary system diagnostics that would impede you, and you get this beacon of hope back towards the colony. And you are given a confirmation as they receive the kind of statistics of what's happening. Fire team, you are at this moment in time left to your own devices. What are you doing?
Oren is going to kind of a storage portion of this the seed, and he kind of hits a button on the side of it, and it kind of opens up again, this kind of hatch, and he reaches inside and he pulls out this heavy chain gun that it's probably at least 10 to 15 feet long. And there's these massive drums of ammunition, these big, huge circular cylinders that kind of mount on his back, and kind of beneath this large shield that he wears. And there's these big belts of bullets that come down and feed into this enormous gun. He kind of makes sure that the round is cycled through the chamber and it's loaded and ready. He prepares for a fight.
Your seismographs are still going off. Boom, 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 boom.
Are we picking up any threats or potential threats from any other direction other than north?
Let me get a secondary system check from both you and Hunter Echo.
4.
I got a 9 out of 9. Fail. You're muted, Baron.
Excellent. Hunter, it seems a lot of your personal detection kind of units that you have put out there are not capable of like the disrupted inputs that they're getting. They're very intense and it's kind of overriding their systems. But Vulcan, you are getting from the overall kind of perimeter that you're getting that whatever it is creating these seismic activities it is moving towards you. These are getting closer and closer, and it's less the like tectonic plate moving as something is moving the tectonic plate.
Jurassic Park style.
Pretty much. And to top it off, it seems that there is a horde of those feline creatures evacuating themselves from the north and moving south towards the camp.
Commander, we've got a swarm, I guess, of those feline flying things heading our way. Whatever is causing this disturbance is driving them before it. And we are in the path of those things. We may need to brace. It's all coming from the north.
Hunter, do we have any reason to suspect that these beasts that are running are going to attack us?
Predatory animals, sir.
Yeah, but they're not hunting right now. They're not feeding. They're running, right?
Fight or flight, they're probably going to fight us.
All right. With heavy footfalls of his own, Rampart Prime makes his way towards the north of camp, probably outside the wooden palisades that they've kind of erected. And with his back against those wooden palisades, he's going to sit down and pull this big shield that he has off of his back. It has these enormous, like, they're not spikes, but they're flat, like beveled or angled fangs almost that kind of stick down from the shield. And he drives those straight down into the soil and activates his barricade mode as these kind of plates kind of slide out from behind it and like slam into place and form kind of like this almost like a curved metal wall that he's stuck down behind completely.
At midnight would be going out there with him to watch his back, as well as to help route these creatures away from the camp if they can. So she'll hunker down. If there's room behind the barricade, she'll hunker down there too.
Vulcan is going to take up position in front of the seed, so might be a little bit further back from them, as like a secondary defensive position.
Hunter would try to be out in front of everyone, and his particle device would start to be warming up.
Hunter, it's you that notices it before anyone else. It's the cacophony of growls and cries of these creatures, their large size carrying the noise of their deep growls through the woods. It's almost tangible, the panic. They're running as fast as they can from whatever it is. I need everyone to roll initiative. So for those of you playing for the first time, we are going to be rolling, I believe, either mobility or system. Yep. Mobility or system, whichever is higher. And if you succeed, you'll take your turn before the enemy. If you fail, you'll be after.
Success.
Ditto.
I rolled a 3. It's a success.
I also succeeded.
So you will all be going before the enemy round. But I'm gonna show them to you beforehand, so you're not just there. But for the way that like turn order works, you guys are free to determine who goes first out of the 4 of you. It's kind of like a slot system. You earn your slot, and then, you know, if it would be more imperative for Rampart to go first as compared to Hunter, then you are free to choose to do so. And you will be keeping your initiative for some playtests that I've done of this game. I like to kind of re-roll the initiative for each round. For this, we're going to keep our initiative that you guys are all going before the enemy.
I believe it makes sense for Vulcan to go last, as he's the furthest away from the front, and we'll probably come into contact with them last.
So like a wave, these things erupt from the side, the northern side of your encampment. And mere moments before these things are upon you, there is a transmission from the president. Fire team, you have one objective. At all costs, protect the seed. May God be with you. End transmission. These things are running towards you. Hundreds. Hundreds is a lot. There's a lot of them. They're running at you.
All right, here we go. Brace yourselves. Do you want to go first?
As soon as they start to break through the tree line, I would take the furthest, what would be the closest to the seed, and I would attempt to shoot at it with my revolver.
That is a test power.
Power? Okay, cool. I'm 16 out of 17.
So that is a hit.
And then it's just my normal damage die?
Yep.
Okay. 3.
So you see this thing kind of escape the swarm itself and kind of divert its attention more towards the seed, and you notice this and you fire. And the shot takes it in the haunches and kind of like sends it into a tumble. And you see that it's kind of like pawing at the ground, its membranous wing kind of distorted from the damage taken by the blow, but it seems to be trying to get away.
And then as more come closer, or are they moving in time, or am I dead center where I'm at? I'd have to move towards them.
They're moving. I'm not going to say that. So in terms of the Black Hack, you are within the near range.
Okay.
They're kind of moving past you.
Then I will just I'll have to make a reactor roll, but I'm gonna no. Yeah. No, I take that back. I will have to make a reactor roll. I'm going to use an action to activate my cloaking field and become hidden.
Okay.
Reactor died. And a 3, so I'm safe.
So you fade as the kind of photoreceptive sensors on the outside of your mech distort to the color of your surroundings. Who's next?
So as soon as Hunter Echo has opened fire, Rampart Prime comes up over his barricade and rests his heavy machine gun, the chain gun that he's got. I imagine there's probably like a small like piston that sticks down, and he probably usually uses it as like a forward grip, but it actually sits like straight down into like this little socket on the top of his barricade and like rests there. And he's actually able to kind of like, double up on this thing, and he starts like chain gunning a path kind of across the front of this horde that's rushing towards them. So I'm testing power. Oh no. I rolled a 19, so it's a miss.
It's less of a miss and more of a, just like you said, a spray. You're firing into the crowd of these things, and though some of them are getting peppered, you don't believe just the distance and the amount that these things are getting hit is enough to stop them. If anything, their fear is pushing them through. As you see this line of these creatures pushing farther into the perimeter of the seed.
And for his second action, he kind of sees that his bullets aren't doing quite the kind of damage that he was hoping that they would. And so he actually calls out to Midnight. Midnight, left flank. We've got several of them there. They're pushing close. And he's going to use battle tactics to allow her to take a move or an action immediately.
Cool. So I think with that, she would move towards the left flank where where they're coming from, the majority where they're kind of getting in. And whereabouts would be Hunter from this vantage point? Is he kind of in the middle, or?
Okay. So imagine this hill is you. See in the middle, obviously. This swarm is kind of like cascading from the north along the western maybe half of this hill. So not like over the top, but like trying to push through the western side. So there's strays kind of coming through. And Hunter, you can feel free to pick your location as you kind of were out in front of everyone.
He's probably a little bit more to the east and trying to like push them more to the west. So
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well.
Okay, so Midnight would take up a position further west of where Hunter is sitting, so that to push them even further, so that keep them as away from the seed pod as possible. And she will brace her submachine gun on top of her shield and let out a string of fire towards the rushing horde. So that's power, you said?
Right.
Oh, I rolled a 20. So that's fail.
That is a failure. Is there anything for critical failures in this game? I don't think so.
I've come across.
Well, Karen, you are no longer able to attack forever. So. No, I'm kidding.
That's
I'm
all.
kidding. There's a short jam in your machine gun as you're firing, and the cartridge you expect to eject, but it lodges itself in the chamber, and you are able to kind of do what you need to dislodge it. But it appears as if none of your anticipated movement was able to be completed. Kind of similar to how Rampart was just moments ago. You fired, but it doesn't seem like at this distance and the places you hit, you did that much damage.
Okay, and I was able to move from Rampart's action that you did, right? So on my turn, then I shot, and then can I do something else, or is
Well,
that...
actually, I think you are able to shoot as Rampart's action.
You can choose to use it for a move action or an attack action.
So if you want to use that as that attack act, okay. If I could talk, if you wanted to use his battle tactics for that shot you just took, I would say you are still capable of taking a full turn, which is a move in 2 actions.
Okay, yeah. So let's.
Count as your 2 actions.
You get 2 actions, and move is one type of action.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, let's say I shot from there. The gun jams, so that's when I chose to move out. And maybe because my gun is jammed, I'm pulling out my laser axe and readying that against the horde.
So that would be another power attack if you're choosing to attack.
That's hopefully not another 20. Oh, that's a 10. So that is under my power.
See, this game is nice because you get a 20 and you're like, oh no, a 20. So you are absolutely able to make contact with one of these stray creatures.
Okay, and then that's my damage die? Oh, yep. 3.
So as your laser weapon cleaves into this thing, dealing a surface wound, I need you to roll mobility. With disadvantage.
Disadvantage. So that means I take the highest?
Correct.
Oh, this die, I'm going to shoot it. So it's an 18, which is higher than my 15.
You cleave into this thing roughly as it strays too close to your perimeter, and its blood streaks out from the wound. A lot of it was cauterized from the plasma essence of your weapon, but the initial contact was enough to erupt, and you take 4 damage as the corrosive substance that courses through this thing's veins lands on you and damages your mech.
So I think part of it actually gets on the shield. So I'm going to use 1 armor point on that, reduce it. And you notice that it kind of powers up a little bit and it spreads over my armor and kind of glows hot, which is going to be cool. And I'm all readied.
So I believe Kevin?
Vulcan, yeah. So Vulcan drops down to 1 knee, seeing kind of the actions in front of him. And not being the most combat trained of the 3 pilots, the other 3 pilots, he lays a spread of bullets and it thuds into the ground, erupting these bursts of turf and debris into the air in front of the swarm that's approaching, as he misses with his first attack. But again, working his reactor to the limit, he continues to fire for a second turn. So what I did was I used my reactor to repeat the action again, which I think is something you can do. Yeah, and I hit on that one, doing 7 damage to the swarm of things that are firing towards us.
So I actually imagine it's one of them has been hit by either Hunter or Midnight to kind of finish them off. You do also do like the secondary damage to some of the swarm, but this is primarily some of the closer swarmlings, and you kill it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Shot in a way that the blood kind of coming from the creature doesn't land on any of your teammates. And you attack twice? Do you want to?
Yeah, so I missed with my first one, and so I then used my reactor to I just kept my finger on the trigger until my reactor was glowing red, hot underneath my ass, as I felt the heat emanating up the spinal column of the mech. Thankfully, I took my finger off the trigger before it completely overheated and burnt out one of my reactors. But yeah, like I had to push my reactor to its limits.
Almost like a firefly next to this massive flower, you illuminate as your weapon glows hot. And that brings us to the swarm's turn. The swarm is chaos incarnate, and to be honest, they could give a shit less about you and your palisade. So, Hunter, Rampart, and Midnight, I need the 3 of you to make mobility checks.
Even though I'm in a hidden?
You are hidden. You can have this mobility check at advantage. This is more of like an AoE kind of thing. So,
gotcha. I'm good.
Success here.
I have to roll this with disadvantage because I'm in barricade mode.
So, Baron, what I'm kind of imagining at the moment, you know, in the Matrix when they're attacking the underground fortress, and the drones are flying at like their mechs and they're firing and they're having to part. The swarm that's attacking, like, is parting because of these mechs firing the bullets into them continuously. Like, I imagine that we're aiming for one point to part the swarm to go around the seed, rather than like thinking, okay, we're going to attack the right flank or the left flank. It's literally down the middle, part the horde, this swarm, to make it go around the seed as much as possible.
I agree 100%. And I feel like Rampart is kind of that initial separation in between Hunter to the east and Midnight to the west, and then you kind of backing them up. The swarm wave coming is kind of separating just enough that it skirts the outside of your palisade, as these things, like you say, are kind of starting to go around you. You all managed to succeed on your mobility checks, as these things are just kind of smashing themselves into whatever is in their way to get out. But you see it. You see what they're running from. A looming shadow, darker than the sky, silhouetted by the stars that fade from behind it as its lumbering body matches the seismograph. The thing causing these creatures to run in terror. It is reptilian, perhaps? Certainly in shape alone. It is quadruped, walking on 4 limbs as it kind of waddles in your general direction. Its back is covered in mountains, jagged and sharp, rising miles, kilometers into the air, moving. The myth of the world that rests on the back of the tortoise. This could eat the tortoise. A creature Goliath by all standards. the king. It seems as if though it had waddled out of the water maybe 20 minutes ago, water is still cascading off the sides, raining down on the terrain, escaping pockets that line the back of its mountainous shell. The eyes sizes of the same size as what you and I would perceive the moon in today's age. This thing is huge.
Vulcan, how in the hell do we kill that thing?
On its Baron, could I get the help of the AI pods drones, whichever ones are left, to try and start scanning it as much as possible? So tap into the AI and get them to start swarming it, finding weak points, anything like that.
Absolutely. I would require a system check.
Yep. That is a failure. That's 16 over 14.
So you try to connect with the AI of the pods, and it seems that the just cast off radiation is burning them out as quickly as they come in within perceivable range of this thing. You know that the scouting pods are certainly less prepared and aptly made to resist these kinds of conditions. So, like, as compared to your mech, it's not going to just fry you guys in your cockpits, but the discharge of whatever this thing did is certainly negating any helpful effect they would have for you.
Commander, we've got a problem. There's so much radiation emanating from this thing that it's burning up all the AI pods, drones. I'm going to have to get closer myself to run any system scan to find any weak points in this thing. I suggest until then we unload on it if we can. Maybe aim for the eyes. They're big enough. Oh my God, they're so big.
Permission to piss this thing off, sir.
You got a death wish, but yeah, Hunter, engage.
I would like to use my jump. Well, how far is it from us?
This thing is in the far range.
Perfect.
And this is probably distant, to be honest.
Oh.
But it was moving on its turn as its action. So I'm going to say far.
Okay. If it's far, that's perfect. I'm going to use a move action to use my jump jets to move instantly to a far location. So I'd like to land like on its head or near its head.
Okay.
And I don't provoke opportunity attacks and I ignore difficult terrain, but I have to roll my reactor die. I'm good. And then my other action would be to drop Static Cloud. It's an action. I have to test my mobility. If I succeed, I deal 1d4 damage to 2 close enemies and become hidden. I'm good. So I'm also already hidden. So I add an additional d6 damage. So a d4 and a d6. For what it's worth. Or 7 damage. And then I become hidden on its head, I guess.
So you see as your raiders are able to detect Hunter still, even though his cloaking is enabled, he jettisons forward using his jump jets and lands on the creature's head. And you see, perhaps comparing them to the moon is a bit overzealous. The eyes themselves are roughly the same size as the chest torso area of your mech. You kind of land on its head in the center of its face, and you're, in all essence, a bug to this thing. And you unload, dealing 7 points of damage.
And I had to roll my reactor die, and I failed. So I downgrade.
Perhaps that is in tune with your expenditure of abilities, or perhaps with the just particle reactions of what's going on in the air having their effect on your reactor. You have yet to determine. So that is Hunter and Vulcan. So Rampart and Midnight.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted me to wait my turn to do that or not, or if it was going to be out of turn. I'm not sure if you wanted me to. If you're okay with that, Baron.
You didn't really get much of anything from yours, so I'll let you have another turn as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it was just a case of I would move my mech up to start repairing the chassis of Midnight.
That's 2 hit points back. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. And as you're up working on her, Hunter, Midnight would turn to you, Vulcan, and say, "Where was that anomaly in the land that you scanned before? Can we maybe head it that way?"
To the west. The loose ground was off to the west.
So from our vantage point, how far west would it be from where we are right now? You said it was 3 miles?
It's not in direct trajectory of this creature. So it would take some coaxing to get it to go that way.
Okay, and it's still far at this point, right?
Correct.
Which is how long? Okay.
Roughly 3 turns.
Yeah, unless you have something to... Far as 2 moves.
So it'll be upon the seed in 3 turns.
Okay, so I think for this turn, what I'm going to do is try to unjam my gun, and I will head. I'll move 1 move towards the place where we can start to divert its path so that it will head towards there. So I'll set up a place there. I won't be able to attack it this turn, but I will set up so that I can try to maybe unload next turn.
Okay. Rampart?
So Rampart, having seen this kind of stampede turn and go around them, he's going to deactivate this barricade mode shield, and it kind of slams back down as it compacts, and he kind of pushes it down onto his back. And he says, well, if the plan is to make it go that way, then we need something that's going to cause it to turn. And he kind of turns around and puts his gun on his back as well. And he starts gathering up as many of these palisade trees that they've kind of arrayed. I imagine they're kind of, sharpened at the top the way, wooden palisades often are. He's just going to start like grabbing as many of these things as he can. So I would imagine that's probably his turn right there.
I'm going to go ahead and say that there's like a stockpile of these that had been like built and stacked like within the grounds of your palisade that you can kind of scoop up rather than remove any kind of protections that you've already put in place.
Nice. Okay. So maybe there's like a bundle of them that are like chained or whatever that they were used to like be dragged or carried over here. And he'll just kind of run over and grab a hold of like whatever is binding these together, and we'll just kind of like lift those and start walking towards the opposite direction of this cavity.
Okay. And that brings us to the creature. As usual, these swarms of predatory, it's not so much a swarm of just these predatory animals as it is just everything in between you and that creature kind of swarming towards you. The forest itself fighting for survival. They have, for the most part, separated around your particular placement with the seed. But the thing looms. And to be completely fair, the seed itself is not completely dark. So, I need... Actually, I guess I'll explain this further. The creature waddles forth towards you, going from the far to near range. Or rather, distant to far range. It's giant strides, leaving divots in the ground. And it's almost as if 2 and 2 come together. And that big kind of crevasse that was made to the ground to the east is kind of being demonstrated from the north as this thing kind of slides the most of its bulk along the ground, devastating everything. But that's when you see the most terrifying thing of all, is it cracks as this kind of crag formation on its back shifts, as what was all kind of parallel and jagged peaks kind of shift apart and terrace themselves as this thing rises up off 4 legs and kind of shifts itself as these kind of shell pieces lock over top of each other, holding its back in place as it's now towering above you, kilometers into the air. And it screeches loud. I need everyone to make a presence check.
Fail.
Fail.
I failed.
I rolled a 1.
So Rampart,
Nice.
you're fine. But the rest of you, the pieces fall further together as the disturbance from both probe Kepler 97 as well as your own ship recognizes what exactly caused those disturbances. Radiation is one thing, but the sheer output of displaced particles from the voice that erupts from this creature is enough to disrupt your mech as well as life support systems, and the seat itself flickers for a moment. As you all take 2 points of damage, and I need you to roll a reactor die.
Do I take any of that damage at all?
You do not.
Okay. And I'm assuming I also do not roll the reactor.
You do not.
Okay. Just making sure.
How many points of damage was it again?
2 points.
So when we roll a reactor die, we don't want to. I rolled a 7, so that's okay, right?
Yeah, you don't want a 1 or a 2. It's kind of the roll down.
Perfect.
My reactor's fine.
I'm overheated.
So both you, Midnight, and you, Vulcan, you kind of are able to disrupt the disturbances to your reactors. It kind of flickers for a moment. Hunter, you are caught off guard just with the sheer burst of sound that you are directly in front of as you are overheated. And that brings us to, I believe, your guys' turn. And Hunter, you will have to skip your turn to expend
all the heat.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm switching knobs and stuff. Everything's flashing red. I'm trying to get it
The
all out.
sweat beating on your face is noticeable as it's literally just fucking hot inside your mech right now.
So, Rampart Prime has basically just leaned his mech forward into an all-out run. He wants to move to near. That should be the area that this thing is moving to next. Right? And he kind of runs up and kind of slides to a stop. And as he does so, there's just like mounds of turf that kind of move underneath his feet as they kind of dig in and like slow his forward momentum. And he pulls this bundle up and slams as hard as he can to try to snap these chains and spill the contents of this bundle kind of out in front of him.
I'm gonna say that would require a power check.
Sure thing, boss. That's another one. Hell yes.
So yeah, just almost as you planned, you snap a quick kind of shockwave through this bundle, and it snaps the chain links, and these things kind of tumble out of their bundle as you predict.
So that was a move and use action, I guess.
Well, what do you want to do with them now that they're out? Because we could say that this is kind of part of this use action.
I want to plant them, point up in an area that I think this thing's foot might initially come down on. I want to deter it from putting its feet on that side down in this direction.
Okay, yeah, I'll allow it.
Okay, so he's kind of running around, kind of grabbing these things and shoving them kind of into the ground, spreading them out as best he can. He knows they're little more than toothpicks to something this size, but he's hoping that stepping on them will hurt every bit as much as if he stepped on a bunch of toothpicks.
Even giants fall to splinters. So Rampart, you've gone. Vulcan and Midnight.
Do you think I would be close enough now to run another systems check to find out, see if we can spot any weak points? Or do you think I'd need to wait for it to get a little bit closer still?
No, it's large enough, I think, that you'd be able to. But just for the sake of everyone knowing going forward, if you do anything to this creature, add +2 to the roll.
Yep.
So.
All right. So systems, which is 14 +2, so I've got to get below a 12. That's a 7. So that is a success this time.
Your scans are from your mech itself rather than any of the Kepler drones. And you notice from your diagnostics that a lot of like the energy that this thing erupts is kind of in like a cooldown state in the center of its back. Like these strong protrusions of shell are kind of protecting it, whatever this core is, and that's probably its weak point. If you can get underneath the protection, that's where it gets its power, quote unquote.
I would relay that. Commander, scans are coming back positive. There seems to be its main core that it builds up energy is in the center of its back beneath the plate. If we're going to do anything to this thing, we have to get past the plates and damage that core if we are going to do anything to it. Hunter, do you read? Hunter, come in, Hunter.
Exactly. Static.
Damn it, Vulcan, are you telling us that we have to climb that thing?
Well, if Hunter can get going, then he's halfway there. This is what he's built for. That's it. That's the only weak point I can notice on this thing. Can't find anything else. That's our best chance. Baron, could I roll my reactor? Let's roll it. That's a 9, so that's a pass. As a second action to repeat my action, if that's okay. So I want to use my systems again as a second action after rolling my reactor. And what I want to do, I want to shut down the AI pod completely. Like, completely shut it down.
Absolutely.
If that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It is attracting attention, if anything. So that's a terrific idea.
Would I be able to still take a move?
Move is considered your action, so you can either move and not do anything with the AI or do the AI. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm going to shut down the AI pod, and I've kind of got an idea, but I'll have to do that next.
Actually, hold on. I messed with this a little bit back in my last game.
Yeah.
What is your reactor sitting at?
It's the D10.
So, what I will allow you to do, should you choose, is you can make that secondary action, like you said, you've already passed your reactor roll to shut down the seed. I will allow you to dump your reactor, so go from a D10 to a D8 to take that third action for a move.
No, because I'm going to need my reactor for something else.
Absolutely.
What would I, in fact, be able to start to superheat my reactor, like purposely overheat my reactor?
I would say that would take an action, but I don't.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that in the next in my next turn, then hopefully.
Okay.
It's just a theory at the moment, so I'm gonna not relay that to any of the others.
Okay. Midnight.
So I moved last turn. So if I move again this turn, I should be able to be within striking distance, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to use my charging strike as a move action, immediately move to a near enemy and make a melee attack against it.
Okay. And that counts as one action.
Yes. And then I have to roll my reactor die. So this is power, right? First?
Yep.
Okay. No, I miss. And my reactor is fine. So then as a move, well, it says as a move action. So if I tried to do another move action, I have to roll my reactor again. Is that how it works?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to try to...
You could attack since you technically took a move action last.
I'm going to try to climb it, though.
Oh, yeah. Don't let me stop you from climbing.
I'm going to try to climb up this thing.
I'm going to say that's a mobility.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Made that one.
So you move in close, and what kind of weapon are you using to attack it?
It was in my melee weapon, so it'd be a laser axe.
So as you jettison towards this creature and you make a slice at it, your weapon carves into the flesh, but it's so superficial it doesn't even like break the skin. You almost see like a chitinous shell-like scale that you're cutting through, and you barely cleave through the surface. But this shell that kind of enwraps its body is steeped, and you are able to climb it.
Yeah, imagine she grabs hold of the chitinous shells and gets good handholds as she climbs this mountain of a creature.
Okay. And, well, the creature, to be honest, is not too fond of the mites that cling to its body. It waddles forward, though the system check from Vulcan is able to shut down the seed. It doesn't appear as if this thing is in a direct course for it, but it's walking towards and close enough that it's worrying still. You feel, as well as see, the energy kind of steep out of the ground in arcs in its step, almost like a static as it moves. Its belly churning, plates massive, kind of clinking against each other. All the while, this static building and transversing into this jagged, craggy shell. So much so that it creates a visible light that arcs through its body. And as this arc transverses into the shell, you see it leak towards the back of this thing's head, and a light erupts from its mouth. And it looks down at the person climbing upon it. Midnight, I need a mobility check +2.
8 on the die, so that's a 10, and my mobility is 15, so succeed.
So this arc of light streams down, decimating the ground beneath its feet, and you are able to avoid. You notice that it itself is unaffected by its own attacks, but the terrain is devastated.
Does it step on any of my booby traps?
At the moment, no, but it's not done.
Fair.
Each step brings it closer and closer. And I need you, Jeremy, to make a... It's going to be like a power check.
Okay. That's an 18.
Yeah, +2.
Oh, okay. So that's a dirty 20 then.
You almost know as this thing takes a step on the trap you set that it's probably not going to do anything. The splinters of the jagged stumps of tree that you had cut down mere hours ago explode as if dynamite had went off inside their core as the mass of this creature walking on them just destroys it. So this thing is treated mechanically as a boss. And in Mecha Hack, bosses go before and after the player character's turns. Since you guys are all going before me, I technically get to make 2 turns in a row. Just so you guys don't think I'm like, I do this and blow that up. And
sure, Baron.
Layer actions.
Pretty much. And
More
with
like cheating action.
With this, it cries out again I need everyone to make system checks.
Fail.
Was that system or presence? Sorry.
Actually, I think it was presence.
And is this a +2 also?
Yes.
Oh, failing. Just dug myself in a hole. Never mind.
It is presence.
Oh, in that case, I passed.
Another fail.
So all of you except Rampart are once again going to need to roll your reactor, and you take 6 points of damage.
That's why he is the commander. He's unflinching.
Unafraid.
And partially deaf.
Yeah. That's the key determinant here. So this proximity of the screech is much closer now. As you take the damage of the reverberations of this thing's cry. And that'll bring us to your turn, the players.
Radio check. Over.
Are you back online?
Oh, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hunter, it sounds like Vulcan has a plan, and you're the best suited.
I'm running a little hot here. Give it to me straight.
Right. So we've located its main core, where we imagine we can probably hurt it the most, and if we're going to stop it, you're the closest to it. Basically, beneath its shell at the back, beneath the plates on its back, there is a glowing power core as such, where it's drawing all its energy from. We need to start targeting that. Midnight is en route via the hard way, but as you are already there, maybe you can start doing the business.
On my way.
Can I maybe go first, because I can give you an advantage potentially. I have a question, Baron, too. Would I be able to get to this area that that Vulcan has told us about in another move?
Yes.
Okay. So, if you don't mind, Hunter, I would like to go first. If that's right.
Okay. I'll be able to grant myself advantage, so if you want to give it to someone else, feel free.
Okay, nobody else is close here, so.
Oh, yeah, I get it for being hidden.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, then maybe you go first. That way, and then I'll go after you.
Okay. So I would use my move action if I need to get closer. And then I would attempt to attack it with my dagger.
Give me a power check +2.
All right. Nice. 6 out of 17. And then I am coming from being hidden, so I get ambush, so I had advantage, and I deal an additional d6. So 4. So 5 damage.
5 total?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Did I use my move to get closer?
You would have, yes.
Okay. So then that's my move and my attack.
So your plasma knife rips into the shell of this thing, which you can tell, despite being extremely resilient, isn't given enough time, not immune to the effects of lasers utilized for the purposes of cutting. And you dig into this shell, not enough to reach the core, but certainly enough to to break some of these kind of interweaving scales away from each other to give yourself a start.
All yours, girl.
Roger that. And with that, Midnight would do her charging strike and close the distance between where she's at now and where Hunter is. And as she approaches, she would take the laser axe and just try to slam it down, like point first into that vulnerable spot as hard as she can. And you said this is power? Oh, dear God. 20 on the die. So
this creature's waddling move, the steps themselves create earthquakes that tremor through the creature. For what experience you have with landing on solid ground within a mech, this monster is like walking on an asteroid. It's constantly shifting and moving. And not that you don't anticipate that, you don't anticipate it. It's not something you are keen on moving on. So as it kind of shifts, you kind of shift with it, and you don't miss, you just shear into kind of this protective layer.
Yeah, imagine she's trying to come down and do this critical strike and just off balance, kind of crashes a little bit to the side, hits one of these mountain rock things that grows on its back, and it's just kind of thrown off balance. And as my second action, she's going to turn to Hunter and say, I don't know what she's going to say. Something really inspiring. Like,
I said something inspiring.
Okay. Hunter, I'm inspiring you. Yeah, so I'm going to give Hunter, what is it? Because you're no longer hidden right now, you're going to have advantage on a single test before the start of my next turn. So,
Oh, thank you.
Good job, boy.
I got some special cookies waiting for you if you can finish this thing off.
Kelp cookies.
It's made from space plants. All right, so Rampart Prime charges forward, picking up like the last two remaining of these pylons, and he is going to kind of run and jump and use these things as like climbing pittons to work his way up the leg of this creature. If I can do so as a move action.
I'm going to let this move action count as an attack action, just with the description.
Okay. So you want that as a power?
I would rather it be power than mobility. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that works great for me. Especially when I roll my third one for the night.
Okay. So you give me some damage.
Oh, okay. Take 2 points.
These large pythons, as you called them, they chisel into the scaled flesh of the creature, superficially at first, but you start to know where to aim to get the best kind of pull for your technique here, and it's starting to do some damage, and you do a couple of points of damage.
Excellent. And as I'm climbing up, I am going to reroute some of the power from my own mech and send it towards I think Midnight. So these little looking nanites come out of my mech and kind of fly off towards her and kind of hover around her mech using energy shield. So before the start of your next turn, you can roll a d4 and reduce any damage that you might take by that much.
Nice.
I'm going to roll my reactor die and see what happens. And as I do so, the power of kind of pushing my mech up this beast while I'm trying to simultaneously release these nanites actually does cause my system to start to overheat a bit.
It's somewhere in between the nanites being released and just the kind of, there's a heat coming off this creature. It's kind of cooking you inside your own mech. Vulcan, have you gone?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, I believe you are all that's left.
Yeah, so Vulcan's going to move to the west. He's going to take one move action to the west. And with the seed completely shut down, powered off now, he wants to emanate as much light as possible to see if he could draw the attention of this Colossus. But at the same time, it's going to be like light, heat, just general energy signature, basically. And so I want to deliberately like overcharge all but one of my, because what I imagine, I haven't got this big super reactor like some of the others. I've got like 4 reactors linked together instead. And so like that's how I imagine it, because I've got the super reactor as well. But rather than having like a big reactor, they're like 4 linked together. So I just had an extra one added on. So I want to kind of like burn 3 of them. So I've still got a reactor to move with. And so like I'm supercharging my reactors to try and attract as much attention as possible. And if you want, I can roll presence potentially if you wish.
Yeah, take the words out of my mouth. Present sounds great.
Cool. Let's give this a try. That's a 14 over 10. So that's a fail. But yeah, but now my 3 reactors are like giving off immense heat and I'm feeling like I'm sitting in a microwave.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the creature. You failed to attract its attention, Vulcan. But only for a moment. It seems as if perhaps the residual effects of your beacon have somewhat began to take place, but perhaps not to the effect that you're looking for. The creature seems to be inhaling after its cry mere seconds ago. And the charge kind of drained from both Rampart, Hunter, and Midnight seems to coalesce in the light, kind of drawn in from the scales, specifically from that opening in these scales that Hunter and Midnight had managed to kind of pry open. And as it looks down at you from its mountaintop shoulders, I'm actually going to need Rampart. Mobility +2.
So that's going to be an 18 over 14, which is a fail.
You see the coalescence of light in its mouth. as it begins to discharge. Oh, geez. I didn't even look at the damage I do on this thing. I'm sorry. Let me say that ahead of time.
It's fine. This is fine.
Everything's fine. You take 14 points of damage.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and spend the 4 armor points that I have remaining to absorb as much of it as I can. And that leaves 10 remaining. All right.
So as this beam strikes you, your shields and the durability of your chassis seems to hold. But as it burns into you, you see, and all of you feel the reactory claw swipe as it kind of comes to swipe at the two of you, clawing into its hide. I need both of you to make mobility checks with disadvantage. +2.
I'm going to make mine regular because she gave me an advantage.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you say both of you, you mean the other two up at the top?
Yes, not
Okay.
you. You were still climbing. They were like
perfect. Yeah.
situated themselves on his back. And that's why I'm giving you disadvantage. You have kind of like, it's not just I can stand here, you know. You're holding on.
I
Fail.
rolled a 1 and a 3 on the die.
Nice.
Fuck you, Karen. Give it the big old finger.
Got me at least.
So Chad, Hunter takes 10 points of damage as this massive claw rends the position where you were standing mere feet away, meters away from Midnight. I'm jumping back and forth between metric and imperial, back to imperial. You're a distance away.
I am disabled.
As this giant claw strikes, actually, I need you to roll on the disabled chart. If you don't have it in front of you, I can get it. I think it's a D10.
Sounds right.
D8. Roll a D8.
Okay. 5.
Your comm systems are down. You cannot communicate. So as this thing rips its claws or up down its flesh, you turn to escape, and as it hits your reactor, it also hits your comm systems, and your comms are down. Your mech goes dark, which is visible to everyone's kind of HUD.
Hunter, Echo, come in. Shit. Stay on target. Stay on purpose.
It's your turn. If you guys can actually give me 2 seconds, so recuperate in any way you need. I gotta get my cat food.
So I think I'm basically going to move kind of up to where you are still standing, Midnight. I think that probably might just be a move. I'll check with him whenever he gets back. And then as my second action, I think I'm going to use battle tactics again to give you a chance to move or attack.
Okay.
Sorry about that. He was visibly upset. So, your turn.
So what I did with my turn, Baron, if it's okay with you, is I used a move action to climb the rest of the way up to where Midnight is at, and then I'm going to make a use action to use battle tactics again to give her the ability to move or attack.
All right. So Midnight.
I am going to attempt to strike down in this crevice that Hunter has managed to make and has now fallen. And I'm going to try to jam my laser axe right down into that. Oh, so 10 on the die, and he said +2, so that's 12, which is under my power of 13. Yay!
Roll some damage.
4.
You strike into this thing, kind of beating into the core. More chips of this chitinous shell kind of chip away. The craggy flesh falling in large boulders.
So then on my turn, I think she would just continue to lift the axe and strike it back down again. Just trying to chip away as much as possible on this thing. Oh, that's a 12 on the die, so that would be a 14, which is a fail.
You're hacking, but it only seems like after enough time and diligence is these pieces coming off.
Okay, so I can attack again if I roll my reactor, right? Okay, so I will do that. Okay, that's another fail. But the reactor is fine.
So Vulcan, he's still trying to enact his plan. I still think maybe Vulcan's got some distance on this thing. So he's going to actually use his machine gun first of all to spray its head, its eyes with a volley of fire to try and help attract its attention. And then if I can, I want to, with my reactors still kind of giving off heat and light and radiation, energy and all sorts, test my presence to try and gain its attention, if that's okay.
Yeah. So first I will need a power for your attack.
Yep.
And presence.
That's a failure. 15 over 13, that's red +2. Can I still test my presence?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a fail as well, 17 over 10. So, yeah, just can't seem to attract its attention at all.
It seems less that you are failing and more that your companions are succeeding in a certain way. They have irritated the shit out of this monster. And it's enough to have him not paying his full attention to you. So I believe that is all three of you because Hunter is down. Hunter, what is the inside of your cockpit like right now?
I think that like any kind of screens in there are probably like cracked. There's some like wires hanging down. There's smoke in there from everything that's over. And then there's like blood coming from the corner of his mouth, and it's you can't see any of this because it's completely dark inside of there.
And as the smoke is kind of clouding your vision, you feel almost like the vertigo, the stomach rising into the chest as your mech has let go. And you are beginning to teeter off as this creature is continuing to move forward. I believe you, Chad, I hope you don't think I'm trying to kill you, but you automatically fail all tests.
Right. A mobility test for the fall or something.
Yeah. And I rolled a 12 on the damage die. So I think you're incapacitated until further judgment. I did say I was going to kill you all at the break. Chad, you tell me, what is the last thing that Hunter sees before he loses consciousness?
As it starts to slip, he's like trying to fumble in the dark, and he's already kind of rattled from everything that's been happening already, and the tension and everything, and he's trying to like slam where he thinks like the calm is at. He's trying to get a hold of Vulcan because that's his repair guy, and he's like trying to hit it, and he's like, anyone, and he's just basically just no one else hears it because he's just screaming at his dead consoles, and he just feels like almost zero G's. He's like floating as like an elevator, kind of just falls too quickly, and he starts to float before he a silent thud into the ground, and a cloud comes up, and the dust settles and rests on him as like a blanket in his possibly permanent bed.
The creature moves forward. It seems as if its path, though not completely diverted from the seed, it appears as if that's not its primary directive as it carries on. For those of you still attached to its hide, you see this kind of glowing wreckage that is the seed number 2 that has kind of crashed down, the large portion of it. And that's kind of the trajectory it's going now that seed 1 is turned off. The pain from the slashes it's received are enough to make the sharp inhale cry again. I need everyone to roll presence. I have rolled 6 every time on the recharge die, so this die is...
That's a fail once more.
I got a 1 on the die.
I failed this one.
Those who failed make a reactor check and take 7 points of damage.
The medic's going to need a medic soon.
I think we all are.
How are we all looking? Pretty poor?
I'm standing
Yeah, for now.
for now.
The creature, kind of noticing the shaken position of the bulkier mech on its side, Rampart, the more elusive Midnight kind of frees herself from the creature as it shudders and the cry goes off, kind of dampening the sensors on her mech before the blow hits. But Vulcan, you too are kind of hit with this this shockwave, and as it approaches the smoldering wreck of the seed, it's gonna like turn to scrape its body across the ground. I need mobility checks. once again.
I succeeded.
I failed.
I swear, I love DMing because I roll good all the time. If you fail your mobility check, you take 11 points of damage.
I too am disabled now.
Let me get a disabled roll, a D8.
3.
Okay, with a 3.
I'm hobbled.
You are hobbled, yes. So your legs effectively got pinched in between its shoulder and like the rest of your body, and as it scraped, I feel like, you know, when you hit a pothole with your car and you visibly like, with a mech, you feel like the tingle in your waist as half your mech is peeled away like a scab.
Commander, what's going on? What's
I'm pinned underneath this thing. My legs are they're trashed. I'm not gonna be walking out of here, I don't think.
Maybe this isn't the time to bring it up, but I know you said never to discuss Protocol 13, but maybe this might be a moment to discuss Protocol 13.
No discussion. I'm already working on it.
Of course, I'll still continue to try my best down here. Although it seems to have changed course and is heading towards pod number 2. Are we okay for this?
Yeah, I don't know, like disabled. It says you cannot take actions until repaired. You automatically fail all tests until repaired, and then you must roll on the disabled mecha table. But
To be fair, if you're trying to blow yourself up, I'm not going to stop you from killing yourself.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Yeah, I'm going to, because I was pretty close to this like vent, this
Yes.
soft spot.
Yes. Who has turned
Okay.
left this turn? Because I think I just ended, so it's
Yeah.
Hunter's down. Midnight's got a turn. Vulcan is initiating your tactic.
Protocol 13.
Protocol fucking 13. We all got real stressed.
Yeah, I don't have an action at all because I'm disabled.
So you want me to stuff you down into the crevice before
Well,
I jump off?
I was thinking more like rip his super reactor out.
and then jump down with him.
I'm thinking now, you know, Armageddon, when they have to drill the hole to like plant the nuke. It's like you've started drilling the hole, now it's just time to plant the nuke.
I kind of like that. So I could rip your reactor off of your mech, shove it down the hole, and then grab you and jump.
maybe pushing action economy there. But I like where this is going.
Okay, so after getting the confirmation from the commander that Protocol 13 is now on the table, I'm going to stop my reactors from kind of burning out, sort of thing, and potentially blowing myself up. And I'm going to try and skirt around the Colossus to try and get to Hunter to assess the situation there. All I saw was a mech fall off the back of this thing. Even though we'd lost all contact with Hunter, I just saw this almost Wilhelm scream ragdoll mech come off its back. So yeah, with the change of plan, I'm gonna try and make my way to Hunter if I can. I'm not sure how many movements that's going to take.
He's actually within 1 movement of you. So
Okay.
you'd be able to move to him and then still have an action.
Okay. Then I'm not sure what I can do because I mean, yes, I can fix his mech, but if Hunter himself is out for the count, then
See, it's actually quite the opposite. His mech, for all intents and purposes, like is fried, but
right.
as far as you can tell, he's alive.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to burn some armor to restore some of the chassis. I'm not sure if it's going to need multiple uses.
2 health will be enough to get him to power back on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to do that then, if that's okay. Yeah. So I'm going to burn some armor and get him powered back up.
There
as
is
I'm attaching the scales to the different rents in the chassis, which it's like a patchwork job. It's also infusing like a defibrillator effect to the mech as well at the same time to give it like a little jump start.
absolutely. But whereas before his reactor kind of glowed like a firefly itself, this is very faint, kind of like small tendrils within the core, kind of operating on core systems alone.
Yeah, getting all the read from his mech coming up into my display and stuff. That's something I'm going to have to try and deal with on my next turn. One step at a time, get the chassis fixed, and then jumpstart it properly with my reactor.
Absolutely. So Vulcan, you've gone. Rampart, you are down. Hunter, I'm going to say that you can have 1 action out of 2 just as a kind of startup.
And then how much HP did you give me? The 2?
Yeah, you got 2 as well.
What do I risk doing? I'm gonna go with a cloaking field and roll my reactor. I'm good. So I've just become hidden.
The faint light in your reactor kind of flares for a moment, and there's kind of like that thought in everyone's mind, like, is he gonna overheat again? But the cloaking field, like the cells that kind of photosynthesize or photoreflect or whatever, kind of start to flip, and it seems to have worked.
I try to raise them on comms, and all they hear is a really loud squeal, deafening.
Absolutely. Midnight.
So Midnight is going to try to rip the super reactor off of Rampart Prime's mech and jam it down into that hole that we've been making. Grab what remains of poor old Rampart Prime and jump. going to try to do as much of that as I can.
Okay. So that sounds like 3 actions. And I will let you take 3 actions, but you have to dump one of your reactor dies.
Okay, I will do that.
So I need power.
Yes.
Whatever you roll on your damage die, double it.
Oh, I rolled a 7, so that's 14.
Okay. Now I need a mobility check.
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, I did that too. 13 under 15.
So you, in a swift moment, grab the cockpit of Rampart Prime in your left hand and the reactor in your right and kind of rip it apart, what's left of Rampart, and stuff the reactor in the hole with your right hand, and with your left tucked close to you, you leap as the reactor explodes. Enough so that it jogs the creature down hard to the right, and its leg forces itself through the soft ground, and it tumbles into this pit. The pit gives way as you see what was ground and trees and landscape give way to a cavern, subterranean and deep, as the creature itself loses half of its body into this craggy surface and disappears partially into the darkness. The 4 of you barely managing to escape, as Vulcan, you repair Hunter enough to get him on his feet. At midnight, you escape with the pod close to your chest. The creature's cry erupts from the hole one more time. I need presence checks.
I believe since I'm disabled, I automatically fail.
You are
all tests until repaired. Yeah.
Okay. So as like a person, you're taking some damage because there's no like protection. So
just me cradling him.
Yeah.
I failed.
Same.
So the total
I succeeded.
So the total is 5 damage. So Hunter, I think you're down again.
Yeah.
But you yourself are not injured. Rampart, you were shaken pretty bad and have probably received a concussion as Midnight kind of topples forward with this creature's final cry. And Vulcan, you are able to sustain yourself as there's kind of like a wrenching sound of like things breaking and like this creature kind of falling into the crag of the earth. There is like a fissure of lava that kind of erupts, coalescing around this creature and burying it in molten magma as its cry continues. This fissure kind of opening and separating from the girth of this creature. Liquid hot magma. You are able to save the seed, but it seems as if this is not the landing pad you will be looking for, as this kind of crag is leaking or working its way towards separating the ground towards the seed. But you are nonetheless alive for now. And that is where we're going to end the session. So I would like to thank the 4 of you for helping me tell this tale of Pseudozilla and the world of Nova 6. I love Mecha Hack, love robots, and I'm certainly glad to have been the first for both Chad and Karen. I'm gonna let you guys say what you need to, and then I'm gonna take her out, and we're gonna get out of here for the evening. So we're gonna go ahead in the same order as before. Karen.
I want to thank you, Baron. Thank you for fun game, and for being absolutely brutal and doing your best to kill us all, and letting me jump down with the poor old rampart in my arms. It was an amazing game. I enjoyed everything. Yeah, I think I'm falling in love with Mecha Hack. So thank you very much.
Glad to be that catalyst. Kevin.
Just echo what Karen just said there. Thank you for having me on the game with these three amazing players. I think the word amazing gets bandied around. No, not bandied around, because there's plenty of you guys. But, you guys are really good at what you do. This was everything that is great about Mecha Hack, and everything I wanted from a Mecha Hack game. You did a great job setting the scene. I knew exactly where I was, doing exactly what I wanted to do. I knew what everybody else was doing. The imagery you put in place was perfect, so it was really good. It was tense. It was realistic action. It was everything that I wanted from a Mecha Hack game. So yeah, brilliant. Well done. Thanks a lot for having me on with these guys. Thanks to Chad and Jeremy and Karen as well for teaming up. It was a great game to be a part of.
Like I said earlier, Kevin, your ability to pick up what I'm putting down is certainly a boon for the both of us, and I'm sure if RWD Gaming has anything to do it, you'll be back. Jeremy.
Yes, you are a cruel son of a bitch. But I like it. Mecha Hack definitely has the feeling of a game that needs to be punishing. I mean, you're talking about enormous robots, firing missiles and shooting enormous guns and leaping insane distances. Like that should be a deadly thing, especially whenever they're fighting Godzilla, not Godzilla. Godzilla air quotes. Yeah, like I said, I think this is only my second or third time to play Mecha Hack, and I love it. Like it's a very sleek game that accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do, very, very well. It has a really good feeling to it. It just runs the way that it feels like it should, and I like a system that does that. I understand it, kind of from the gate. I play with most of you on a fairly regular basis, and that's always a joy. Kevin, I think I've only played with you once before, but this was no less of a pleasure to have you on the team a second time. So I'm Jeremy. I have a YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions. Go check it out. And Baron, thank you very much. Even if you are a cruel son of a bitch, I love you, and I love playing games with you.
Titles are titles. I'll accept them all. Kind of just to echo that, Mecha Hack, and I get more or less the Black Hack in general, is a very vacation-esque kind of game from like the usual campaigns that we are in, just because it's like you said, it's I want to fight some robots, I'm going to do some cool shit, I'm probably going to die, and the system's like, well, here you go, here's some rules for it. And I mean, truly, I put minimal prep into this, and I feel like we got a lot out of it. So, I mean, I'm grateful. Chad, someone who is new to the channel, at least from my angle, certainly glad to have you. What you got?
Glad to be here. Yes, definitely the first time I've been on this side of the table from you. So that's awesome. I appreciate that. And I've got to play with, and it's always a pleasure. No matter what side of the table I'm on from you guys, it's always a blast. Always looking forward to it. Hope to see you all at a table again, these virtual tables that we play. I hope to see you all again soon. Mecha hack, great baptism by fire. Getting to fight Gojira and actually like pulling it off maybe without anyone maybe dying, maybe. That was really cool. Blowing stuff up is always fun and getting to, little modules and abilities that they get to use. And I like how it's not so like cookie cutter, like you don't have to have a certain pilot with a certain mech and anything like that. You can switch around and stuff like that. And there's definitely enough diversity in there that people can, even overlap somewhere and they'd still be different. And from what I see, there's some other stuff coming out for it soon. So keep a lookout if if you happen to have gotten, to play this enough and you're looking for some more stuff, it is on the horizon. And look for games with all these people because they're really great. And if you haven't yet, check out Absolute Tabletop Facebook group and come and chat with us and join some games and run some of your own maybe.
Cannot resonate that enough. For a lot of us here at the virtual table, I know that Absolute Tabletop felicitates a lot of our RPG needs in terms of social connections and whatnot, and being someone that has at least tried to come into their own, it's certainly made a lot easier with people that can push you in the right direction and give you the advice you need without completely turning away from you. So go check out Absolute Tabletop. The guys there are absolutely incredible. In reference to the new material coming out for Mecha Hack, you can come see me and Karen in Matt Click's new campaign starting next week on his channel Fistful of Dice, where we will be play testing some new stuff, and it's pretty cool. So come check us out there. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will catch